Alright, today on ProtoBalls Talk, I'm ProtoMet.
This is my recycled balls, and that is a beautiful, beautiful picture of Char.
I'm just showing, just have on screen a picture of Char from Mobile Suit Gundam and some character from an episode of Doctor Who has a very similar outfit. I'm trying to remember what it was called.
I just get the feeling that if Armageddon Factor. Okay, I know which one that is. Yeah, then that is almost directly inspired by Mobile Suit Gundam, because those came out probably around the same time.
It might just be a coincidence, though. But
yeah.
So I was operating under the assumption that it was.
Let's see here. Yeah. Tom Baker's got lighter clothes, so it's probably one of the middle seasons.
Okay.
Anyway.
Today, that's completely off topic. Today, we're going to be talking about the last of the original Star Trek movies. Rise of the Skywalker. I'm kidding.
Wait.
I'm kidding.
Wait, what?
I'm kidding. No, we're talking about...
To be or not to be? That is the question.
We're talking about Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country.
What an amazing movie this is.
It is a good movie, I'm not gonna lie.
So, for the backstory, if anybody missed Star Trek V...
I just want to mention this right here now. I honestly thought that this movie was about them finding some undiscovered country. Turns out, undiscovered country was a metaphor the entire time.
It's a line taken from Hamlet,
which is something that this movie just is resplendent with.
Oh, this movie takes Shakespeare and just oozes all over it.
Ooh, this is one word that I guess we could use.
Yeah, splooges, jizzes. It makes love to Shakespeare. It is basically a love letter.
It's not like a pretty. It's not like a pretty kind of sensual love. It is just like very ugly, very ugly, like in a back alley.
Very, very ugly in a back alley in a beautiful kind of way.
It's like you just can't look away. It's like oh.
So some backstory for this movie here. After Star Trek V, Harv Bennett was fired as executive producer, and instead of hiring a new one from out
a new Harv Bennett,
instead they
because they just have like a bunch of them.
Yeah, right. They basically asked Leonard Nimoy to help out with it, and they got Ralph Winter and Stephen Charles Jaffe to produce it, and Leonard Nimoy wrote the story, of course, which is almost obvious. You can tell it's written by Nimoy with the way it goes. But the other thing is they brought back Nicholas Meyer, the director of Star Trek II, to do this movie, because after the disaster that was Star Trek V, they wanted to get this right. They wanted to get this right. So they brought back Nicholas Meyer, and this was the 25th anniversary, I believe, of Star Trek. This was around the 25th anniversary of Star Trek. So, yeah.
I've got nothing to add to that.
I
don't know the backstory behind these movies. He's the Star Trek guy, so.
And then another thing of note is the fact that this was Gene Roddenberry's last film that he would be a part of before he passed away shortly after filming was finished.
Doesn't the movie start with a dedication to him?
It starts with a dedication to Gene Roddenberry, which is very nice.
So he died during production, I guess.
Yeah, during production after everything was finished. So, released on December 6, 1991, and it He got almost got 2 Oscars. Best makeup, and best sound effects. It did get a Saturn Award though. For best science fiction film. It's the only Star Trek movie to win that, too. So that's okay. Gene Roddenberry actually passed away before the film premiered, so they sort of slapdashed the tribute together at last minute.
That's kind of what me and Brian had to do for our King Kong versus Godzilla review. Within the week before the video premiered, one of the stars of the film passed away.
Yeah. So that's the nitty gritty. Let's get into it. So we start off in space,
as we usually do.
Post credits, and a ginormous fucking explosion rocks.
Boom.
Rocks most of space, causing a I forget the term that they use, but it causes a huge shockwave, like an EMP pulse.
Yeah, in the vicinity is
Captain
Sulu.
Sulu? Is that Hikaru Sulu?
Hikaru Sulu.
Never heard of him. Yeah, Sulu is now a captain of his own starship, the Excelsior, which, if any of you remember that, from Star Trek 3. The ship that they sabotaged when leaving Starport. Yeah. The Excelsior had just finished its 5-year mission to, what was it? Detect gaseous anomalies or whatever. And when they see this fucking wave coming and it blindsides them, basically. And they're like, what the hell was that?
They go to investigate, and then
it's from a Klingon moon, Praxis. Oh, I've located Praxis, but I don't think it exists anymore.
It's not quite there anymore.
And they put it on tactical, and yeah, half the planet, half the moon is
just I'm trying to remember. There is like a good comparison that I am aware of to compare this to, but I just can't place it offhand for some reason.
Yeah, basically, the fucking moon's like ripped in half, exploded, and they get a message, and they
get a message from the Klingon Emperor saying, "Don't worry, everything's under control. Do not approach our territory." We got this under control.
From a representative of the High Council, not. If I remember right, I don't think Klingons have emperors. They have the High Council, which is the highest governing body in Klingon.
Then why is it called the Klingon Empire?
Because they're a militaristic empire.
Okay. Well, I didn't call out an emperor now, did I?
No.
But basically, they get a message saying everything's under control. We got stay away. Do not come over and investigate.
Yeah, basically, stay on your side of the neutral zone. Don't come any closer. We've got this handled. And there's a pretty funny line. Do we tell Starfleet about this? Are you kidding? Oh my god.
Cut forward to a meeting at Federation headquarters, I guess, that Kirk is...
Federation headquarters in San Francisco, because we see the whales.
Do we?
I think we see the whales.
I didn't catch that.
Yeah.
Anyway, there's a meeting that Kirk attends, which basically is a briefing on the fact that the Klingon Empire is basically collapsing. Because that moon was like one of their biggest energy sources.
So what happened in essentiality was they overmined and they lacked safety procedures to keep it from exploding. And when it exploded, its explosion basically tore a hole in the ozone layer of the Klingon, most of the Klingon Empire's planets, giving them at most a few months to live.
I think it was, I'm pretty sure it was more than months.
At most 3 years or so. 6 months to 3 years.
Okay. So, the war might be coming to an end.
Yeah, Spock says, Yeah, we've already reached
An agreement.
with the High Chancellor
to have a meet and greet and just kind of try and hash out some of the details of this. Kirk, I kind of volunteered you for this.
Yeah.
Kirk's like, wait, what?
so the Klingon Empire and the Federation have been basically at war for 70 years.
It's a bit odd to me because it felt like in the past few movies that they've kind of been settling down. So for them to still be at war at this point kind of comes off as kind of weird to me personally.
It has, well, on Star Trek 2, there was no talk of them except for the
Star Trek 2 doesn't mention the Klingons. Star Trek
2 mentions them only in the not the Mutara Nebula, the
I don't recall. I just remember 3 has a Klingon as the bad guy, and then 4 starts with a representative of the Klingon Empire basically wanting Kirk's head for that.
Yeah.
And considering that he's addressing the Federation, it makes it seem like they're on good enough terms for them to be able to make that kind of command.
The thing is, the treaty, the neutral zone, they still respect each other's law, and the Klingons just want justice. Their form of justice on Kirk.
And then I figured that the one Klingon bad guy from the 5th movie was just like a rogue element.
Yep.
So this whole idea that they're still in conflict with each other does kind of come across to me personally as kind of weird.
See, to me, it makes sense because the Klingons have kind of been a non-factor in most of these movies, except for 2 of them.
But they've been a major factor in half of these movies.
Have they though?
3, 5, major enough to be the predominant villain.
Quotations. Villains here, guys.
I mean, granted, they're more of an antagonistic force that's a side plot, but... And then this movie, but...
Okay. I mean, yeah, I get what you're saying, but to me it makes sense, because it can be hand-waved off, really. It can be just sort of hand-waved off as well, they were always at war, but tensions have cooled off, but ever since Star Trek 3 and Star Trek 5, things have gotten a bit dicey.
But yeah, so Spock basically volunteered Kirk to be the representative of the Federation in this meet and greet, and Kirk is not too happy about this arrangement because he is still quite upset over the death of his son, which didn't prevent him from being grateful for being saved at the end of the previous movie by Klingons.
Kirk, they're dying. Let them die! That's actually a really fucking Jesus Christ, Kirk moment.
Yeah, this movie has a lot of Federation racism towards the Klingons. It's a bit uncomfortable. It just seems kind of out of character.
That's actually kind of the point. It's supposed to be sort of an uncomfortable movie with people sort of addressing. Well, I mean, when you consider when it came out, it makes a ton of sense when it came out. It came out in 1991, which is when the Soviet Union ended. So this whole thing is sort of an allegory for the rise and fall of the Soviet Union and
the Cold War and the aftermath.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. It just just kind of is weird.
It's also a Nicholas Meyer film, so you know.
I don't even know what that's supposed to mean.
Well, you know how in Star Trek 2, Kirk was depressed and he was not himself.
Okay, well, let's move on.
So they get moving.
Spock joins with the Enterprise for the meet and greet.
Yep.
Some stuff happens. They do have the meet and greet with the Klingons.
So Kirk has so we're introduced to a.
Oh right, we're also introduced to a new Vulcan girl. Not Saavik.
Not Saavik, and this is gonna come up later as something that.
We'll just mention this right now. This character, what was her name?
Lieutenant Valeris.
Valeris was as Tanner as my recycled balls here.
God damn. Come on.
As he nicely pointed out to me, this character was actually originally supposed to be Savick.
This was supposed to be Savick. It didn't matter if it was Robin Curtis or...
I'm just mentioning that right now so that that's in your heads, because it was in mine throughout this movie, and it made a lot of sense. Because basically, the way this character is handled, it's basically Savick. Just with a new name.
So basically, Spock basically dotes over her like his pride and joy. Because he's
pride and joy as a Vulcan.
As a Vulcan, yeah. As much pride and joy as a Vulcan can have.
And another thing
albeit half human, asterisk.
But again, for as much as they treat it like it's a new character, the character still acts like she knows what's going on. Like she's had experience with these other characters.
Yeah.
So despite being a Vulcan, she's actually pretty quick to be accommodated.
Lieutenant Valeris is the first Vulcan to graduate top of her class and whatever thing. And there's a funny little bit where they're leaving space dock, and Kirk says full impulse power, and Valeris points out, Captain, no full impulse power when leaving space dock, and everybody just sort of turns and stares at her, and Spock's just like, Kirk's amused. You heard the order. Aye, sir. Aye. Oh God! So it's the little things in this movie.
Yeah.
The little things.
So anyway, they go off to have the meet and greet.
They have a meet and greet, and before they get to the meet and greet, Kirk has a little alone time, and he talks in his captain's log, and he says he
grouses over the fact that he just can't bring himself to forgive the Klingons for what happened to his sons.
I've never trusted Klingons. Never. I don't trust Klingons. Never have, never will. Not after what they did to my boy.
Stick a pin in that.
Stick a pin in that.
That'll be important later. But, moving on, we have the meet and greet.
There's also another scene with Valeris and Spock, but it's just sort of a little interesting Vulcan dynamic on thought processes. It's actually kind of important, but...
We'll get to it.
We'll get to it,
or at least address it. But
we'll address it. When I want to
get to the meet and greet because
the meet and greet is amazing. so they meet the High Chancellor Gorkon,
who is played by the same actor who played the Terran representative on
Star Trek V.
What was the planet called?
Fuck if I know. Who cares?
I immediately realized, hey, this guy was in the previous movie. Playing a completely different character from a completely different planet.
Yeah.
And the reason I recognized him immediately was because I actually recognized him from a couple other movies that we've seen. Of course, the previous Star Trek movie, but also Mouth of Madness, where he played the psychiatrist. And playing the scientist character in the second Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles live-action movie, which is probably a series we should cover at some point.
So they meet Gorkon, who's actually a really cool character.
Yeah, he's cool.
in the overall scheme
of the movie's plot.
Because he's not like most like most Klingons. He's actually
kind of looking forward to this whole peace process to bring the war to an end.
He wants peace, and he wants non-hostilities between the two groups because he sees the positives.
He can see the bigger picture.
Yeah.
And how it can benefit the Klingons.
He's also not proud at all. He's actually kind of humble.
Oh yeah. We also meet his daughter. I don't recall her name.
let me pull it up. She's actually kind of important too.
Yeah.
We meet her. We also. Oh, I guess it doesn't matter. Oh, cool.
And then we meet Klingon General.
We meet his chief of staff, Chang. And Chang is the best thing in this movie, bar none. Even better than that alien in the later scene.
But I love that scene.
I don't care if you love it. Chang is the best. Chang's amazing. He quotes Shakespeare all
the time. That was honestly a bit annoying to me.
It actually is kind of funny. I love it.
Like they kind of treat it as though William Shakespeare was Klingon himself, because at one point Chang mentions having read Macbeth
in the original Klingon.
In the original Klingon, it's like, oh boy.
There's an in-joke in the universe that Shakespeare was actually Klingon.
Okay.
That's something of a running gag in the universe.
All right.
In the Star Trek universe.
News to me.
Yeah, it's just a funny thing. So they have the meeting, and
it could have gone better.
So the first thing that goes wrong is they're drinking Romulan ale. Which,
that has been mentioned in the. I don't know if we've mentioned it in.
We've mentioned it in Star Trek 2 when Bones brought it to Kirk's birthday. And he's like, "Why? It's illegal. I get it to ship across the neutral zone every now and then." Whistles my lungs and gums. Whistles my mouth. It's good stuff. Good stuff, that Romulan ale. Oh, God. That actually... Stick a pin in that, too. Stick a pin in that.
The Federation officers that are present for the meet and greet are not terribly impressed with the table manners of the Klingons.
So the people who are there... Oh, there's also another scene... Another kind of minor scene.
Oh yeah, there's also another scene where after they get beamed aboard, there's these couple officers who are very clearly racist towards the Klingon. And
God, can you believe they speak it? Only the highest class ones speak English.
And then Viralis shows up and basically Viralis shows up and
Viralis is from Hideline.
I know. Oh. I couldn't remember what game it was, but I was intentionally using it.
Oh, okay.
So
Valeris is like, you two have work to do. Stick a pin in that. So back at the party.
Yeah.
It's
Sulu, Uhura, Spock,
Scotty,
McCoy,
Scotty,
okay, and
Scotty,
of
McCoy.
course Kirk,
because
he was, and
then Gorkon Cheng, his daughter, I believe it's.
You didn't bother to look up the name while I was still talking.
I think it's Abapor.
Avapor.
Apule.
I'll call her Apule.
Apule.
Yes, whatever.
Okay.
Just to get that, Dragon Ball reference. And, two other lesser officers of the Klingon Empire. They're not too important other than their terrible table manners, using their fingers to eat off the plate. Not the best impression they leave.
There's also a small line here that General Chang says that really sort of hints at his whole alignment in this whole thing. To be or not to be, we need breathing room. And Kirk immediately snaps back, Earth, Hitler, 1939. Ooh. And it's actually Chang says this intentionally to get Kirk to respond.
Get under Kirk's
skin. There's another line that Chang says. He says, don't worry, Kirk. All warriors are cold warriors. Chang's amazing in this movie.
He is kind of. I just wish.
And Gorkon sees all of this happening at the end of the table, and he's just like, well, it looks like we have a long way to go. Everybody's just sort of... I guess you're right.
The dinner could have gone a lot better.
And there's another line. There's another line Gorkon says before they beam back onto their own ship, and it's actually very poignant. He says, "If there is to be a better world, our generation's gonna have the worst time getting through it."
Yeah, that is a pretty good
allegory for the whole
for the whole situation that's going on.
Because in the real world, you have people who were born in the 60s or the 50s and 60s and grew up
during the Cold War.
And knowing about the hostilities, now suddenly plunged into this world where Russia's no longer our enemy. They're us too. They're people too. They're not. They're here to spread communism or whatever. It's like no, they're prone to problems too, and they're also people.
So the Klingons get beamed back to their ship. Everybody kind of turns in, and like it quickly becomes apparent that I think Kirk even makes a note of it to not serve Romulan ale at any get-togethers from now on.
Yeah. Note to the galley: Romulan ale is no longer to be served at diplomatic functions. And everybody's all hungover and shit.
Then stuff happens when
Spock calls up Kirk, and he's like, "Kirk, I need you to look at this. We have radiation emissions."
All right,
take
a look.
Wait, that's weird. We're not moving. Suddenly, poof!
Couple torpedoes strike the Klingon vessel that has the dignitaries, and then we get
everything goes tits up.
That's our favorite phrase.
As ProtoMet likes to say, everything went tits up. Everybody's like, "Did we fire those torpedoes?
Why did we fire those torpedoes? I don't think we fired those torpedoes,
Captain. We just look at the inventory log, and we did not fire those torpedoes."
But we got computers saying that we fired torpedoes. Meanwhile, aboard the Klingon ship,
they've lost gravity.
They've lost gravity. They're scrambling to figure out what's happening. And then suddenly, two figures are beamed aboard wearing spacesuits with Federation logos on them.
And gravity boots.
So they're not affected by the anti-gravity. And they've got guns. And they start shooting people. And we get some of the worst CGI.
I'm actually fine with the CGI. I don't think it's too...
Like, you're looking at it from the perspective of it being 1991 CGI.
Yeah.
I'm looking at it from the perspective of Jurassic Park didn't come out too many years after it. And that has fantastic CGI.
Jurassic Park came out in 1993. It also had a fucking huge budget. If Star Trek 6 had the budget that Jurassic Park did, that blood would have looked a lot better.
Oh yeah, I'm just saying, from my perspective, it looked ridiculous.
Well, I mean, for fuck's sake, Star Trek 2 had the first CGI in a movie ever.
But yeah, so the Chancellor, he gets shot.
He's shot, and
at one point, some of the Klingons are trying to find out where Chang went off to. They can't find him.
Stick a pin in that.
It's so much chaos, and then the dudes shoot. These Federation dudes shoot Gorkon,
the ambassador.
The ambassador. I thought his name started with a D. They shoot him. At one point, they dismember a guy with a gunshot.
Stick a pin in that too. Stick a pin in that.
Ow! So there's just blood all over the place, and then the Federation dudes just casually beam off, and we get a shot of a bit of blood clinging to one of the grav boots of the dudes.
And then they get a message from General Chang, who's all pissed, and he's like, "How dare you, Kirk? How dare you do this to us? That's it! We're going to shoot you! We're going to kill you!"
Meanwhile, Kirk is like, "Seriously, what the hell just happened?
Surrender! Surrender!"
He just immediately surrenders. Is like, I surrender. We're still investigating this. We don't know what's going on here. We're getting conflicting information.
I'm going over there.
I'm going to come over there. I'm bringing McCoy to help treat the wounded.
And there's a blink and you miss it thing that happens, and Spock leans over, touches.
Oh yeah, he covertly affixes like a patch to the back of
if you're not paying attention, Spock leans over, touches Kirk on the shoulder, and basically says, "Be careful,"
while secretly
planning something in air.
he
Stick a pin in that.
It's. I actually noticed it.
You noticed it right away.
It's like, oh, I see what he's doing.
It took me. I'm not gonna lie. It took me 6 times watching this movie to actually catch that.
Well, I guess it's kind of my line of work.
It's such a blink and you miss it moment.
Oh, so then Kirk and McCoy go over to the Klingon ship. McCoy, they find
Gorkon, and he's fucking had it.
He is very in bad shape, and McCoy is doing his best to save the guy's life, despite the aggression.
He's breathing. So they put him on the table, and he tries to heal him using his technology, and he admits to Kirk, "I don't know a single thing about Klingon anatomy. I don't know what I'm doing."
But he does manage to get Gorkon to. Did I get that right?
Yes. He manages to get Gorkon conscious enough to say something.
And Gorkon pulls Kirk in and is like, don't let it end this way.
And he dies right there. Gorkon is dead.
Oh. Gorkon is dead. The Federation is being... the Enterprise is being blamed for it.
And Kirk and McCoy are under arrest for the assassination of a High Chancellor of the Klingon Empire.
Fast forward to the trial. Meanwhile,
there's a scene.
I do want to mention that Spock immediately goes into, let's investigate this.
Yes.
We're being told to go someplace. Tell them we have a malfunction.
Yeah, basically.
I do love that there's like
the intermediary between Kirk being arrested and them. There's a scene where the ambassadors of all 3 empires and the Federation president are talking, and basically the 3 ambassadors agree Kirk has to stand trial for this. There's politically and legally, there's no fucking way he can get out of this. He has to stand trial.
I think the head of the Federation is played by the actor who played Clarence Boddicker in RoboCop. I don't recall the name of the actor, but I was a little disappointed, though not so much that it's a detriment to this movie, that at no point in this movie did he refer to anybody as a dumbass.
Wow.
Because he later played Red Foreman in that 70s show.
Really?
Yeah. It's like, that's where I recognized him from. I just blew in his mind. And one thing about this...
Red Foreman was a Federation president. He didn't call anybody dumbass, and he didn't say he was going to put his foot up anybody's ass. What a missed opportunity.
Granted, that 70s show wouldn't come out for, like, almost a decade.
Wouldn't come out for another 6 years. 1997, so...
Over half a decade.
Yeah.
My bad. I don't know when... But, so, yeah, that's what I immediately...
I did not know that. Wow. Fun fact, he's also blind in this movie.
Yeah, this movie doesn't really convey too well that this character is supposed to be blind.
Yeah.
So, like, there's a later scene where the character is wearing sunglasses at an assembly, and I was just like, why? And you were like, oh, he's blind. Really?
Yeah.
Huh. It's like... they do not telegraph that well.
No.
It becomes quite a bit more obvious, like at the very end of the movie. But
yeah,
But at this point in the movie, you could have told me the guy could see just fine, and I would have believed you.
Yeah. So, there's also Spock and them are basically arguing, and they're like, look, here's the thing.
They need to stay out away so that the culprits who were responsible for the actual assassination don't get away, because they know that they're still aboard the ship.
What as Spock says,
and whoever altered the ship's computer to claim that they fired 2 torpedoes is also still aboard the ship.
As they say, the people who fired the torpedoes are here, or the people who altered the data to say we fired are here.
So basically, we need to not go anywhere so that the culprits don't go anywhere.
Yeah.
And this starts off.
And Valeris is the one that suggests that they basically lie.
She does a fantastic job of actually leading the investigation, I will admit. Also, there's a nice little moment where Spock asks Scotty how long the repairs will take.
How long the repairs will make? What are you talking about? They're working just fine, Mr. Scott. If we go back to Spaceport, the culprits will surely dispose of the evidence. It'll take a couple of weeks, sir. Very good, Mr. Scott.
I love the fact that Spock is basically playing the Kirk in this situation.
And there's a line here that's very important and really makes you realize this is supposed to be Savick. It's where Valeris says, a lie? No, an error. And that makes you realize, shit, this is supposed to be Savick.
Yeah.
They don't really hide it very well, that this is supposed to be Savick.
Like, if not for the fact that you told me that this character wasn't Savick, I would have believed that it was the entire time. They would have just believed they got a different actress to play her. Again.
So then the Federation president and Gorkon's daughter, I can't remember her name because it doesn't say it.
We're calling her Apul.
Apul or whatever. Applepore, I don't know.
We're calling her Apul. Don't add us. Anyway, she still wants the peace process to go forward, but she's still going to.
She still wants Kirk to stand trial, which is a fair cop.
Fair cop. Yep.
But she also says we're not doing it on Earth.
We're not doing it on Earth. We'll let you know where we want to have this take place. It'll be a big secret.
And her Klingon associates basically says, look, this is now the time to strike. They killed one of ours. They killed one of ours. We kill thousands of theirs.
And Apul's like, no, we will follow through with my father's dying wishes. We will let
And Chang, sitting in a corner in the shadows, says, your father died for his wishes.
She's still going to go through with it.
Yeah.
She has enough. She clearly has enough political power in the Klingon system.
She's the new High Chancellor.
I guess it's a monarchy thing.
It's sort of a meritocracy will. It's an imperial, like in the Roman Empire. It's bestowed upon somebody through a will.
Yep.
So.
Anyway. She has enough influence to be able to influence Klingons who are bloodthirsty at this point.
The Klingon Empire is basically the Roman Empire without an emperor. So basically the Roman Senate.
Anyway, we get to the trial of Kirk, and there is just quite a bit of damning evidence against Kirk, including...
So first off, Chang is leading the investigation, which shows you how much of a monkey court this is. Or a kangaroo court.
And then we get Worf's ancestor, played by Michael Dorn.
Yep.
It's like as soon as I saw that actor's name in the opening credits, I was like, oh, I'm gonna keep an eye out for him.
Yeah. He's not very hard to spot. He's not
very hard to miss.
No. Yeah.
Like he is basically Kirk's defense attorney, and
he actually does a very good job.
Yeah, he does his best to try and represent Kirk, and even try and direct the court to not go off on tangents, which are hurting Kirk's case.
So the big pieces of evidence against Kirk and McCoy, because McCoy's also on trial. Basically, the biggest case on McCoy is he was incompetent and derelict of duty
and drunk
when trying to save Gorkon, which is negligence.
Yep.
That's McCoy's biggest fault. He just happened to be there and was.
The situation was not the best.
Yep, and he just couldn't save Gorkon, therefore he's guilty. Which is Jesus Christ.
It's like there's malpractice, and then there's just, not being able to do anything.
Yeah. But Kirk's case...
it's got the recording of him...
The recording of him saying how he will never trust Klingons. Which causes an uproar in the entire...
Kill him! Yeah.
Kill him! Kill him!
It just not go over very
well. Oh my god, as soon as the Federation president, because it's being transmitted.
Yeah, they're watching us, like, as soon as the... It's like, oh god.
Yeah, as soon as that airs, the Federation president just admits, fuck, this is over. This is over for Kirk.
So yeah, that's the most damning piece of evidence. That and the circumstantial evidence of the torpedoes and
Chang's biggest piece against Kirk is, if anybody under your command derelicts their duty and assassinates a high president, who's in charge? Who's the one who gets the blame for it?
So, in essence, the whole situation is, you're guilty because somebody who is working for you did it.
Yep.
Even if you yourself didn't do it, you're responsible, which is a big fuck you to individuality and personal responsibility.
But here's the thing. It's a Klingon courtroom. It's a big kangaroo.
Yeah.
It's a big kangaroo court. You're basically guilty anyways.
Yeah.
But Worf does a fantastic job keeping Kirk from the death penalty.
Yeah.
They
just get banished.
Worf's biggest piece of defense on Kirk is, this is all circumstantial and speculative evidence against my client. His political views aren't on trial. Whether or not he did it is not a matter of fact. It cannot be proven he was in the spacesuits. It cannot be proven that he was one of the two men that assassinated the High Chief. Can't be proven that he was the head of this assassination plot. Therefore, I ask that the death penalty be commuted. I ask that this be what's the word?
A lesser charge?
Yeah, I ask
a lesser punishment.
I ask that this be considered when sentencing.
And the judge does consider it and banishes both Kirk and McCoy to a mining planet, to a mining asteroid.
Rurapente, the aliens' graveyard. One of the basically like a Brazilian prison.
I don't even know what that's supposed to mean.
Overcrowded and harsh as fuck conditions.
Well, harsh as fuck is not an understatement.
No.
When they're taken to the planet, they're basically told, yeah, if you even try to escape, there's really no chance of you surviving out here. They actually bring up a prisoner who has been banished from the prison with nothing but his shorts, and he dies almost immediately because of how fucking cold it is.
Did we mention it's a snow planet?
A snowy asteroid.
Yeah.
Just freaking cold. Everybody, even inside of the prison, is bundled up.
Yeah. So everybody stares down Kirk and McCoy because they know who they are.
This one big alien, he wants Kirk's furs for himself.
Well, the joke is, he picks up Kirk, and this lady, Martia, I believe, Matias or Martia, she comes up and she's like, he wants you to pledge your loyalty to the Brotherhood of Aliens. Well, he's got it. He also wants your coat. Well, I'm afraid he can't have that.
Oh, and this lady, she is one of the more memorable characters in my mind.
Yeah, she's
granted, I had seen some of these prison scenes years earlier, so she kind of stood out to me at that point.
She's a great character.
She is a great character, though.
I can't remember what nationality she is, but she's great. She stands out.
Oh, definitely.
She definitely stands out.
Like, you can tell that she has seen some hard shit and doesn't give two flying fucks what you think.
And she basically spills the beans on Kirk. Yeah, no, this whole thing was a setup.
Yeah, she just straight up tells him, yeah, no, you've been set up. Everybody here knows who you are. They know why you're here.
Everybody knows you've been set up. It's just a matter of who. There's a hefty reward for you getting out. There's a hefty reward on your head if somebody puts you out of the way. Which, yeah, stick a pin in that.
Wow, we have a lot of pins in this bulletin board. I'm surprised we can still see the cork.
Hey, pretty soon we'll have to write Pepe Silva on there.
I don't even know what that means.
It's an Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Okay.
It's a conspiracy theory.
Okay, so it's referring to that image. Okay.
Yeah.
Like, that is actually the image that I see when...
Yes.
When I was thinking of that, so... Okay.
Yeah. They're about to come off real quick in succession here.
Meanwhile, there's still the investigation aboard the Enterprise.
So Kirk and the crew basically say, okay, if we didn't fire those, think about who would have fired those, and we wouldn't have been able to detect them.
Basically, they suspect that the Klingon Empire had developed a new cloaked ship that could also fire while cloaked.
A bird of
prey can't fire unless it's
decloaked.
And they figure that the only plausible reason...
Occam's razor dictates, because they did not fire, despite
the computer saying they did, and despite them not seeing another ship, then obviously the most plausible answer is that there was a cloaked ship that could fire. And that's what's going on.
And they're like, okay, well, what's next? Do we go back? Are you crazy? Scotty goes nuts over this suggestion. Are you crazy? With what? With what evidence? They call us a bunch of madmans.
And he's not wrong.
He's not wrong.
I mean, even knowing that they're right, it still sounds kind of like...
Yeah, they need evidence, and which spawns the whole...
investigation of the ship for the actual...
A pair of gravity boots. Because based on the testimony, unpin one of them, based on the testimony of the guy who lost his arm. He was at the trial and he mentioned gravity boots.
Yeah, we forgot to mention that in detail, but I'm glad we remembered to mention the guy who was dismembered.
Yep.
What a hero.
He was a true hero. His testimony saved the day. Technically.
Technically, yeah. So they're looking for gravity boots. They ultimately do. They do find it, but there is one scene where Viralis pulls out a blaster, a phaser.
Oh yeah,
shoots a cooking pot to prove that they can't fire a phaser on board the ship to destroy the evidence without alarms blaring all over the ship. Yeah. Which is a very, very effective way to prove that point. Yep. Like, it's hard to ignore that evidence when it's immediately presented to you. Like, she fires it, alarms go off, everybody who is not presently in the room and knows what's going on is scrambling to figure out what the hell's going on.
Most of the people in the room don't even know what's going on because they're in a kitchen.
They're just in the kitchen.
And everybody's just like, what the fuck, man? What the fuck? She shot a pot while there was food in there.
Like, the dude was still stirring it. It's just like now a mess with like a whisk stuck in it.
What the fuck, guy? Come on. There's another great scene. They finally find the boots.
And they bring in the officer whose locker the boots were found in. And
Chekhov is have you heard of great Russian folk tale Cinderella? If shoe fits, wear it.
And he drops the boots, and then like everybody in the room
he stands there. He's so
friggin' proud. And then everybody in the room is like,
oh no!
Look down at his feet, and we get a look at the guy's bare feet, and they could not possibly have fit in those boots. They are so
alien.
They are so alien because this guy was an alien, and obviously not from Earth. Like, just looking at him is like, yeah, no, this guy is not a Terran.
And the way he spoke, too.
Yeah. So he was just as confused as anybody could be at this blatant accusation. And then, like, everybody else in the room is on his side. It's like, yeah, no, this guy couldn't have done it. Look at his feet. Which completely undercuts Chekhov's accusation and saying.
Yeah. So we come back to Rura Penthe, and we get Lucas's favorite scene of the entire movie. I'll let him take it away.
This is the one scene of this movie that I actually remember from seeing this scene years ago. So Kirk is in a fight with this big dude, and it is not going very well for Kirk, and he just kind of gets tossed around a bit. And at one point, he's on his back, and he spots the dude's exposed knee, just peeking through a hole in his pants, and Kirk just kicks the guy in his knees, and the guy just goes down. Kirk is a bit self-assured with him. He's like, man, I'm glad he had weak knees. And then, what's her face?
Martia's like, don't assume that was his knee.
Not everyone keeps their genitals in the same place.
Oh! Dude, you know what?
That is a gross scene once you realize that you can actually see his genitals through the hole.
Oh, you know what's worse? That would be the fucking worst place to keep your genitals. If you think about it. Let's say
it reminds me of that one episode of South Park where Kyle gets plastic surgery to become a black man, and in order to make up for the height, he has testicles implanted in his knees. But when he tries to do a slam dunk and land, pop! So, yeah.
I was gonna say, see, having your genitals on your knees, it would be worse. Because imagine a coffee table. You see what I'm getting at? I think I broke Lucas.
Keep going. I'll come back.
Okay, you got a coffee table. And you know when you hit your shin on it, it fucking sucks? And it feels like death? Alright, imagine hitting your knee in it. I imagine that's death. In the balls! On your knee! In the coffee table! And thanks for coming to my TED Talk. Oh, I think that might be the first actual laughing fit we've had here.
Keep going while I try to catch my breath.
Okay. So, Martia says, hey, I have a way out of here. That does not involve coffee tables and balls on the knee. Jesus Christ. And she wants Kirk and McCoy to help her with it. And they're hesitant to. And while at night, Kirk admits that he doesn't have balls on his knees, and there's no coffee table around, he feels like an idiot. Because he didn't think to take Gorkon at his word. And that's sort of Kirk's biggest reflection piece here, is that he didn't even think to trust a Klingon. Because he never could trust a Klingon. Because they don't have balls on their knees.
Alright, I'm back. You just had to say that right as I came back. But let's move on.
And McCoy basically says, yeah, Kirk, it's probably time it's hardest on both of us. It's maybe time that we both.
Is this a scene where they're in bed?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's the time where we both admit that we were wrong and admit that.
Now that I think about it, me saying that line without any sort of context.
Yeah.
That scene where they're in bed.
Oh, yeah.
It's like
no context needed. It's Kirk and McCoy. And balls on knees action.
And then one of the fang dogs that are, I guess, indigenous to this planet or something comes by. And then Martia shows up.
And a 50-plus-year-old William Shatner and this 20-something-year-old. What if
it's like a mini makeout sesh, and McCoy's just like there.
And McCoy's just like,
come on.
Sometimes I wish I had balls on my knees.
Yeah, so in case it wasn't obvious, this movie I remembered most
for balls on knees and coffee tables.
That is the scene that stuck out to me. Granted, that was like the only scene of this movie that I saw, so take that how you will.
But no, the rest of it is memorable. It's just that.
Oh
scene.
yeah, it's just
that scene.
That one for me sticks out the most because
that was just the funniest.
That was my introduction to this movie.
Oh Jesus Christ! We've got to move on from the balls on knees thing.
I told you to, but you keep bringing it up.
You know what? It's gonna be a running gag someday.
Hopefully not too recurring of one, otherwise it'll stop being funny.
One day, one review, sometime, when you're least expecting it, I'll bring it up. Coffee tables and balls on knees. All right. So they it's the next morning. They're planning on escaping,
and they encounter this big guy.
I think we've been duped. No, you haven't.
Yeah, it turns out that's Martia.
Marty is a shapeshifter. If it hasn't become obvious.
Yeah. So the dog the fang dog that was walking by while they were in bed, that was Martia.
Yeah.
That's how she was able to sneak in.
And she explains that she hand waves it away. They don't take men, or they don't take women. They don't take men. Oh my god.
They don't take women on these mining expeditions deeper into the mine. And to get out of her chains,
manacles and chains,
she turns into a little girl and just slides them off because.
Fuck it, she could have done this a long time ago. Which put a pin in that.
Yeah.
So they escape. They basically escape.
They managed to get out. Meanwhile, back on the ship, Scotty actually hears something and finds the...
well, that's later on.
No, not really. we kind of have to address this about here because we're getting close to a point where these two are intersecting.
Okay, but first off, they make it out of the signal jammer range of the Rura Pente base, and Spock locates them, and he's just like, "Oh yeah, remember when I touched Kirk on the shoulder? Oh no, I was planting something on him."
Yeah, I think even Kirk knew that's what was going on.
Yep.
It's like he was at least aware of it. He figured it out. So good on him.
Yep.
That's another pin we got to take off. So
they're speeding towards Rura Pente.
Kirk,
And there's a brilliant fucking scene where they're stopped by a Klingon control satellite.
Oh, but no, but first, I'm pretty sure this happens first.
Yeah.
First Scotty hears something and then finds the missing spacesuits in like an air vent. It's like I didn't really understand how he figured it out. Like I figured he just heard something off and being, the engineer that he was, realized there was something off and where to figure out what to do.
Yeah, that's after this though, because Scotty is there.
I know. I'm saying that this is probably before that.
Yes.
Because I think it's okay. Yeah.
It's after.
Well, I'm just mentioning this now as
it's important. It'll come up.
They also figured out who these guys are and doing the search for that. But they come across a what was it called? What did you call it?
A Klingon, basically Klingon customs.
And they're
like, where's your destination? Where are you going?
They have the crew aboard the bridge have so many books on language to try and translate the Klingons.
Because here's the thing. Here's the thing. If they use the universal translator, they'll be found out.
Oh yeah. So they have to do it in in the actual language, and
God bless Uhura.
Oh, she does a fantastic job with how limited her knowledge is, and she does manage to slip past them.
Ha 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 ha.
Basically, the Klingon cracks a joke and they start laughing, assuming that the person on the other end will laugh as well, and so
everybody just forces a laugh.
And then just cut off and just head up, keep heading.
Yeah, they're just fucking annoyed at this point. They're done with this. So
then back at Rura Pente,
they make it to a spot that Martia had set up.
And turns out it was a trap. Martia had been working with the...
Kirk basically figures this out immediately. He's like, you didn't need us. You set this whole thing up. What did they give you? A full pardon? Well, that's not going to help you when you're dead.
And then she transforms into Kirk, gets into a fight with Kirk and McCoy, knocks McCoy out for a little bit, and then she's in the fight with Kirk, and then the Klingons show up with weapons, and then one of the Kirks is like, "No, you idiots! Shoot him!"
Yeah. So the two Kirks are standing side by side, and he's like, "What are you waiting for? Shoot him!" And the other Kirk's like, "No, you idiots! Shoot him!" And they shoot the one on the right,
which turns out to be Martia.
and Kirk cracks a joke. Killed while trying to escape.
And so the Klingon basically starts to unveil that.
Since you're going to die anyway.
Yeah, we set up this whole situation. We were setting it up to try and kill you while you were trying to escape. Since you're going to die anyway, we're just going to tell you who it is that it was. And then Kirk and McCoy get beamed out.
And they're like,
no, man!
Damn it! God damn it! But you've waited at least 5 seconds. You want to go back? No!
So Kirk and McCoy are safe, but they still don't know who it was that set them up.
And then they're talking, and Scotty brings the clothes. He's like, "Look, I found these clothes. It's got blood on them." and you know who it's for, who it's from, and they open up a door, and there's two guys, the two racists are dead.
Yeah, they're just collapsed on the ground, not disintegrated, because as Viralis pointed out earlier, if a phaser had been used to disintegrate them, to hide the bodies, everybody would have fucking known.
But, as it's also explained by McCoy, it was a phaser at extremely close range, which doesn't set off any alarms. Because it's so close, it doesn't set off any rays.
So that means that whoever killed them they were familiar with that person and could get that close without arousing suspicion.
And as Kirk mentioned, assassinate the assassins.
That's the way to cover your tracks.
Spock is like, Captain, if I may, I have an idea.
And so they chat in secret, and Kirk gives his approval.
By the way, the two dudes' names were Burke and Samno.
I don't know if that means anything.
It doesn't.
Well, then why bring it up?
It's just an interesting point.
Okay, whatever.
So the whole Enterprise gets an announcement.
Basically alerting them that to have some people come to the med bay to take a statement from the two under the pretense that they survived.
Yeah.
Which I figured out pretty quickly was basically to lure in the assassin of the assassins to expose who it truly was. And this person goes in to try and assassinate the guy and finds Spock there. And it's revealed to be...
Was this really a surprise? It's Viralis.
Yeah.
You could have seen this one a mile coming, actually.
Yeah, once it starts happening. But, yeah, so it turns out Viralis was working with these two guys and some others to set up this whole situation to perpetuate the war.
Oh, and this scene is amazing, too, by the way. Because Spock is like, kill me. You have to kill me. You have to finish the job.
And Viralis...
It doesn't matter what your choice is. It doesn't matter if you want to or not. You have to.
And she can't.
She can't. And fucking Spock takes the phaser and fucking chucks it halfway across the room.
Kirk is like in the next bed.
Out of legitimate anger. He's absolutely devastated and just pissed off. Because he can't believe that this is who it is that would betray him.
And this is why we mentioned that this character was supposed to be Saavik.
Take that pin off.
Because the fact...
The whole premise of this movie is Saavik can't get with the times, too.
So she attempts to perpetuate the status quo.
Yes.
Even at the betrayal of all the friends that she's made. And the fact that this isn't Saavik really lessens the impact of this scene. And really is a negative point for this movie, in my opinion.
It's if it was Lieutenant Saavik,
I would have been a lot more invested in it.
Hell, even if you had Kim Cattrall and just say she's Saavik, it would have been a lot better.
Yeah, this character's played by Kim Cattrall. I forgot to mention that. I recognize her more from Sex and the City, but
yeah, no, like that would have been. I would have been fine.
It would if they had just like if you hadn't told me that this character wasn't Saavik, I would have believed it would have been Saavik, and that would have had the emotional impact that this doesn't have because it's not Saavik.
You see what the point we're trying to make. If it was Saavik, this movie would have been an emotional masterpiece because it's basically Kirk dealing with his inner demons and his racism, coming to accept that he needs to change with the times, and Spock learning that he can't dote on anybody anymore, even his most beloved friends.
But then they decide to change Saavik into a completely new character and completely undercut that.
It's whatever. It's still a great movie.
Oh yeah, but this is
so they capture So they take Valeris in.
And she does not want to say anything more than what's already been revealed. Other than that she's working for other people.
She basically says, it's not just me, and it's not just the Federation.
And so Spock mind melds with her.
Oh my god, yeah, we need to talk about this scene a little bit in more detail, because it's not just he mind melds with her. Basically, Spock mind rapes her.
To get the information, which is that there are three major figures in this whole situation.
There's Admiral Cartwright, who has shown up earlier in the movie and is from Star Trek 4. General Chang.
General Chang, and then some Romulan character
the Romulan ambassador
who's a complete non-entity in this. The whole point is that at this point it's revealed that a Federation officer and a Klingon officer have been working together to perpetuate the war and keep the status quo, which is kind of ironic.
Yeah. The irony is not lost on everybody.
So the whole kangaroo court that Chang had was part of his plan.
Chang's plan was to get Kirk executed so he would be out of the way.
And that didn't quite work out, but he tried to amend that flaw in the plan, and it turns out that didn't quite work out. Let's talk about the mind meld.
It's a great scene, but Jesus Christ, is it uncomfortable?
It's not an in-your-face, shocking sort of uncomfortable. It's a very implicit uncomfortable.
Just watch Kim Cattrall's face that scene, and just like, Jesus Christ, that's very uncomfortable. Because it looks like she's being raped from the inside out, essentially. And
she emits a noise that clearly indicates that this is not a pleasant experience for her. Once Spock goes with both hands to try and learn the location of the peace talks, which is clearly going to be the next target of the whole situation.
And I mean, the point is, why would Valeris know?
Yeah, so she doesn't know. And anything that I do to try and rationalize what's going on in this scene could just be me trying to rationalize this scene. Like, I could say that being a Vulcan, she was fully aware that Spock could mind meld with her. She didn't voice any resistance to it. She just accepted it. But at the end of the day, that's really just me making excuses for this scene to try and justify it. And
it's still a very good scene. It's a very well done scene. It's very
controversial in its own right.
Yes.
And, this is like the one scene in this movie
Even here, Spock is reluctant. Spock doesn't want to do it,
but he knows he has to because he doesn't have a choice if they want to keep the peace.
Yeah, he's sacrificing the one for the good of the many.
This is like the one scene that really sticks out for me when I was trying to think about what to talk about with this movie, because that's ultimately why I came to the decision that any attempt on my part to try and justify what happens in the scene is really just me trying to rationalize the scene. And there's really no right answer for this. They do it for the greater good, but they all at the same time step over a bound that they probably shouldn't have.
Yeah. They basically force information out of somebody by mind fucking them. So mind raping. I don't know what the term for it, but
yeah, mind raping is definitely the word you want to go with. Mind fuck is a completely different subject.
Is it about as pleasant a subject as balls on knees?
Depending on the context, maybe.
Okay. As long as there are no coffee tables around.
Well, coffee table could be involved in...
Shit. So let's move. Okay, so meanwhile, through all of this movie, we've had shots of Captain Sulu.
And his ship.
Basically...
Sulu has kind of been a bit of a non-entity outside of the opening scene, and now he's finally coming back into the picture. Because he's coming to the aid of the Enterprise, now that everything's been laid on the table.
So they talk to Captain Sulu, and Valeris admits, yes, there is a cloaked bird of prey that can fire when cloaked. And Captain Sulu is like, no, really? Shit. Alright. Here's the location of the secret meetings. I will get there as fast as I can and meet you there, and we can both fight this thing head on.
So they both managed to get there. They encounter the cloaked ship. And,
I can see you, Cook. Can you see me?
That's Chang talking. He's just goading Kirk because he's like, this is the final gambit for Chang. If he fails here, the whole plan falls apart.
Yep.
And all the hard work that went into the plan is for naught on his part. And the status quo will be shaken up. And so Sulu and his crew, they actually use the stuff in their arsenal that for their gaseous mission to basically point out the location of the cloaked ship.
It's a great scene because you have Chang just
taunting
in Shakespearean literature. At one point, he says one of my favorite lines in Shakespearean literature, the Mark Antony speech when he discovers that Julius Caesar has been assassinated by the senators. Cry havoc and let rip the dogs of war.
I thought it was let slip the dogs of war.
Or let slip the dogs of war. It's either or.
The point is that he's trying to...
He wants war. He loves war. He needs war. And to do it, he needs to kill Kirk. And he's enjoying it. Until the photon torpedo with basically the
paintball.
The paintball, yeah.
hits the cloaked ship and reveals its location.
So Chang's last words are to be or not to be.
Kaboom.
Kaboom.
So, in case it wasn't obvious, the Federation ships blow this stealth.
Kirk has one of the best commands out of the entire series, where he's just fire because he's been arrested, he's been put on trial, he's been commuted to execution, he's been put on a prison planet, he's escaped said prison planet.
He's gone through hell because this one guy can't let go of the war.
Yeah, and he's enacting sweet justice on this motherfucker. So when he says fire.
Now, meanwhile, while all this is going on, the Federation and the Klingons are meeting to have their peace talks, and an assassin is setting up to assassinate the president.
I just want to point out, because this is actually kind of important, that the assassin that is supposed to shoot the Federation president is actually Rene Auberjonois.
Oh.
And he passed away a few months ago.
Not even a few months ago.
Yeah.
Just about a month ago.
About a month ago. He was about 70, 75 or so.
Man.
And Rene is best known in the Star Trek series as Constable Odo from Deep Space Nine, which is my favorite show of the series, and Odo is one of my favorite characters, and it really makes me sad hearing that he passed away, because it hit me by surprise. And Odo is such a great character. He doesn't know his own origin, and he's trying to find out who he is, because he's a shapeshifter. And it's finding it. I just found out today he was in this movie, that he was the assassin. So so he's trying to kill the Federation president.
And this is where the guy is blind starts to come into play. The president. Because basically the assassin is trying to shoot him straight on. So if the guy had his vision, he probably could have spotted it.
Yeah, no, I'm
if
surprised.
he happened to glance in the right direction.
I'm surprised that nobody else saw him.
It was in such a position that...
It was a very blindside position.
Yeah. But since the Enterprise and the Intrepid...
Not the Intrepid, Excelsior.
I knew it started with an E, even though Intrepid doesn't. Shut up! Anyway, since
they all beamed down.
They all beamed down.
Fucking chaos ensues.
Kirk saves the president from being shot.
Basically does a football tackle to the president to get him down.
And it's just as the guy is about to be shot. So the shot rings out. Everybody hears the shot. See that Kirk just saved the president. Scotty goes up and beats up the assassin.
He shoots the dude. And the dude flies through the window. Ah!
There's chaos everywhere. Kirk...
Arrest the... Admiral Cartwright is all pissed off. He's like, arrest those men! And Spock shouts out, arrest yourself! And he's got Valeris by the arm.
Yeah, and Cartwright's like, shit.
Cartwright's like, alright, I'm fleeing.
And they basically like, yeah, she confessed. Which is a bit of a lie, but... The point is that they got the information from her... And it's a pretty reliable source of information. They also arrest the other Romulan guy.
The assassin was going to shoot Valeris. But then Scotty came in at the last second and shot him.
So it's a bit of a chaotic final scene.
The thing is, if Valeris had been shot and died, that would have been it. That would have been it for Kirk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So... At the end of the day, Kirk manages to save the peace talks, and the peace talks go through, and the war is over.
Yeah. So finally
we're aboard the Enterprise, which is...
And they say goodbye to Sulu, and they praise Sulu for a bit. It's a mighty big ship, not as big as her captain.
And then they get a transmission from Federation to bring the Enterprise in to be decommissioned, and Kirk is like, nah.
Yeah, well, Spock goads him into it.
Spock, yeah.
Spock is like, if I were human, I would tell them to go to hell. If I were human, of course. There's another scene earlier in the movie where Spock and Kirk are talking and reflecting. Unpin that scene where Spock and Valeris are talking because they're trying to get their points across, but it's not going very well. And Spock basically admits that I was wrong to dote on her, and Kirk admits I was wrong about my views on Klingons, even though he's technically proven right.
Technically, but.
Thanks, Chang.
Way to go, Chang and all the co-conspirators. Not that the Federation is much better since they had a hand in this too.
Yeah, but and so Chekhov asks Kirk. Chekhov's in this movie, by the way. Not really. He has plenty of funny lines.
Oh yeah, we mentioned the whole the shoe that fits
right,
where it.
Cinderella. Russian fairy tale Cinderella.
Is it Russian?
No, it is not. It's just a joke.
But
Chekhov asks Kirk where he wants to go, and Kirk says,
"First start on the right,
and
straight on till morning,"
which is one of the final lines in Peter Pan.
Which is kind of a nice way to kind of.
Wrap up the entire original series.
I just meant to, contrast the constant Shakespeare quotes.
Oh, right.
For them to just go from quoting all these historical, these historical dramas, dramatic fiction and all that, and then just to quote a fairy tale, basically.
Mm-hmm.
That is...
Look, it's not like Star Trek 2 was any better. Let's be honest.
Yeah, but at least the quotes... At least the quotes weren't as abundant, so they didn't get as annoying. Or at least I didn't notice the quotes as much.
Okay.
Also, Khan was a much more charismatic character.
Okay,
so,
okay, that's fair enough.
Like, he comes across as an incredibly learned person, so it makes sense for him to be quoting Milton.
Okay.
It just kind of feels odd for a Klingon officer to just be quoting Shakespeare all the time, outside of the fact that it's, I guess, a running gag or something, as you said, so that's why it felt weird to me.
Okay.
But so yeah, that is Star Trek 6, The Undiscovered Country. I forgot to mention this. The Undiscovered Country is actually mentioned in the movie as being the future.
It's a line from Hamlet, yeah.
It's a line from Hamlet, but it's spoken by Gorkon. Did I get that right?
Yes,
okay,
you did get it right.
I really...
It's either Gorkon or Gorkin. Does not matter.
Okay, but he says it in reference to the future of the Federation and the Klingon Empire.
And it's a nice... That's
when it's like, oh, okay, that... Now the title makes sense to me. Like, before going into this movie, I thought that the Undiscovered Country meant that they literally found an undiscovered country. And then at some point, Kirk and McCoy go to prison planet. Because that was the only scene I'd seen in the movie.
Not gonna lie, I'd still give it a... fuck.
I'd give it an 8.5 out of 10.
I'd still give it... God. You know, I still want to give it a 10 out of 10.
That is your right. It is a fantastic movie.
But I don't... Here's my problem. Here's the thing with Undiscovered Country. It has a few problems that sort of dampen the experience, but it's still such a good movie.
Oh yeah, like I harped on this movie a couple times. Like my disconnect between
Valeris and
Savick, but also the kind of disconnect between how the Klingon Empire were.
Yeah.
The relationships between the Klingon and Federation had been depicted in previous movies, and then how they're depicted in this movie felt a bit contradictory.
It's just... Even despite all its problems, it's just such a good movie. And I think that's the power of Nicholas Meyer's writing, is he knows how to maximize... He knows how to tell a story first, and worry about lore second.
And I also kind of like the fact that, despite the fact that Veralis was the one who was...
Valeris?
I know.
Okay.
I know what I said. Despite the fact that she was the one who was kind of in charge of the Enterprise side of the conspiracy, she was also the one spearheading the investigation into it.
She was purposefully sabotaging the
investigation.
The investigation.
And she did it so masterfully that
it
was really only kind of happenstance that the whole thing kind of unraveled. Stuff beyond her control.
Yep.
And her being a bit gullible.
As Vulcans tend to be.
So, yeah. This movie was great, though.
I'll give it a 9.5 out of 10. This closes out the original series.
After this, we get Generations, which is technically the last original series movie, but it's also a Next Generation movie.
It is a Next Generation movie that happens to star William Shatner. That's about as far as
that's kind of why I say that.
Yeah. But this is the closing of...
This is the end of the original series' chapter.
Yeah.
In the franchise. Yeah. At this point,
which had a stellar run, by the way, from 1967 to 69, 72 to 74 with the animated series, and then 79 all the way to 1991 which is a stellar.
And by this point, Next Generation had
By this point, Next Generation had gotten good. It had gotten a cult following.
That's because Jonathan Frakes grew the beard.
Yeah. As soon as John.
I'm not going to give any context for what that means.
Yeah, as soon as Jonathan Frakes drew the beard, that's when Next Generation got good. Well, because like the first 2 seasons, Next Generation was okay. It wasn't anything special. It was actually much maligned.
Oh, there's actually a fact screen video that talks about this whole situation.
No, like people hated. People fucking hated Next Generation when it came out. When it first
And
aired.
then Jonathan Frakes grew a beard and it suddenly got good.
Yeah, no, like for some reason, as soon as Jonathan Frakes grew a beard, the writing got much better. And it's like, this might be a good joke.
It's the reverse of jumping the shark.
Also, Data. I just want to point this out. Data had a poker game with Einstein, and who was the one?
I don't know.
Who's the one in the wheelchair?
Stephen Hawking.
Stephen Hawking,
who played himself,
and Isaac Newton. Yeah.
Stephen Hawking was always cool about playing himself in fiction.
Oh my God, his role in Futurama. I call it a Hawking hole. Oh my God.
It's a bit of a tangent. But, so yeah. That was the last of the Star Trek original series movies.
Where would you rate them now? I know you mentioned this.
I did mention this. Going from worst to best, I would say at number 6 is the motion picture. Just hands down. There is nothing to really get that was below that, in my opinion. Sharing a tied spot for number 4, since they're together, is I would say Search for Spock and The Final Frontier. There's they're kind of dueling in my mind for that position. Then Number 3 would be this the Undiscovered Country.
Okay.
Number 2 would be The Voyage Home.
Yeah.
That one, just the pure comedy of the whole situation.
Yeah.
That one really elevates it for me. And then, of course, by process of elimination, Wrath of Khan. Just it is that good.
See, my list is actually a bit different than yours, and this will probably make sense in a bit. But Wrath of Khan from best to worst. Wrath of Khan, Undiscovered Country, Search for Spock. I just love it more because it has Christopher Lloyd in there. What is there not to love?
You have a point.
It has Christopher Lloyd as a Klingon. I mean, Jesus Christ! Does not get any better than that.
I'm pretty sure Jesus Christ was better than that.
Fair enough. Voyage Home. I mean, as much as I love a good comedy, it still does nothing for me. I still think the plot's kind of ridiculous when you think about it. Motion picture. Look, as much as he doesn't like it, as long as it still was interesting.
It had a solid plot, but it just drug on forever. And that was a major sticking point for me.
Yeah, and see, I would rather have an interesting plot that goes on I would rather have an interesting plot that overstays its welcome than Final Frontier, which is an awful plot that's over in a couple hours.
All right, follow-up question.
Yes,
I guess, and this is one that I've kind of been thinking on for this past week. Of all the characters outside of the main cast, and including Khan,
okay,
who is your favorite single character in these movies?
Gee. If we're not talking about the main crew or Khan,
No, you can have Khan.
Oh, I can have Khan.
You can have Khan if you
want. Okay, for the purposes of answering this question two ways, if I include Khan, it's fucking Khan.
Yeah.
Because Khan is...
He's just such a charismatic character.
Khan is such a... Ricardo Montalban, when Ricardo Montalban was playing this character, he had been playing the narrator on Treasure Planet for fucking years. And
Treasure Planet?
Treasure Island?
Fantasy
Island.
He wasn't playing a narrator. He was the guy who owned the island and ran it.
Yeah. Well, when he was that character for years and years, in an interview, he mentioned how it kind of got boring after a while to play a character that was so disconnected when he was explaining everything. Like, oh, well, that's
represents your repressed sexuality. This represents your murderous intent.
Yeah.
I never watched Fantasy Island.
Well, as Ricardo Montalban explained it, he said the way he would do what's the word when you're talking about something for a long period of time,
it gets boring.
Yeah, but
he got sick of it.
I can't think of the word.
The monotony.
Not monotony. No, like the term for talking about something for a period of time.
Monologuing?
Not monologuing.
Gesticulating? I don't know.
There's a term for it where he's talking about somebody and their motives and everything, and it's talked about a lot, like an info dump.
Yeah, that was the phrase I was gonna.
Where the character's having an info dump on things.
Yeah.
And the way he would explain it is, in Fantasy Island, it would be, oh, well, that's Miss Da-da-da, the secretary of Fantasy Island, blah, blah, blah. She's working hard so she can, because she's in love with blah, 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 but blah, blah, blah loves her.
Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, basically. And he said...
So, yeah, the fact that you mistook him for a narrator makes a lot of sense now.
But he said...
I never actually watched Fantasy Island, so
He said when he originally did Khan, he read the lines, and he was mortified at them. He was like, God, these don't... Can you give me this character's backstory? I want this character's backstory. Oh, so he's a tyrant. He's a genetic superhuman. Ah, okay. Now I get it.
Method acting. Character acting.
Ricardo Montalban liked to character act.
He really got into the character.
Yes. So when he did Khan again, it had been so many years since he last did Khan. He was wondering Khan's motivation for this, and he basically, I got it now. Khan, he wants revenge. He wants revenge on Kirk. He wants revenge on Kirk for his wife, for his dearly beloved wife. And he wants justice put upon Kirk, himself upon him, for her. And that's basically...
his whole motivation.
Revenge. He wants revenge.
Blind revenge.
And that's what makes Khan so great, is because Ricardo Montalban puts everything into the character. He acts as the character.
That's a very good
If we're not including Khan, that's a much tougher one. Because first off, you got Commander Krug, Christopher Lloyd's character in 3. That one's a great character, even if
his motivations are completely transparent.
Yeah. Yeah, Commander Krug's great. V'ger's actually a very interesting character, I would say, from a standpoint. Doesn't really do a whole lot of talking.
But
it's still an interesting character.
Oh, yeah.
Man. Savick, obviously. Savick is great.
Oh, yeah. Definitely. Her whole growth over the course of the 2 movies that she's in.
Should have
been 3.
And and Chang, because you know what? I just love when he hams it up. I am a sucker for ham.
Okay.
All right. What about you? Including Khan and unincluding Khan.
Well, even if we include Khan, it's going to be, and you're going to hate me for this.
Oh no.
Cybok.
No! No!
I've legitimately given it quite a bit of thought, and I just really find him to be an incredibly fascinating character. A Vulcan who has chosen to reject the whole logical side thing and go with emotions and try to connect with people on an emotional level and try to ease their burden. He's ostensibly the villain of his movie, but he's doing it for what he believes to be the right reasons. And so the fact that he gets betrayed for his beliefs at the very end, but still manages to redeem himself by realizing his flaws and choosing self-sacrifice to allow the others to escape.
Redeem himself is an interesting choice of terms. There's not really a whole lot to redeem here.
Right. I mean, redeem in the sense, I fucked up. I need to save my people.
My people need me.
Whoop! He died on his way home. How does that go?
He died halfway home. Something like that.
No, but I do legitimately love Cybok.
Even if we're including Khan?
Including Khan.
Man.
Khan is a great character, but Cybok is a lot more interesting in my eyes.
Okay, here's the problem with Cybok. They could have done a lot more with him.
They could have, yes.
If we had spent an extra move, like, how do I put this? If we had more time for Cybok, say Cybok was in 2 movies. Okay? Doesn't matter what it's called. Doesn't matter what the first one or second one's called, as long as the second one's called The Final Frontier. And as long as William Shatner isn't fucking directing. Sorry, William, but Jesus Christ. You got fucking Nichelle Nichols, 50 plus years old, fan dancing nude. I can't forgive you for that. Would have been more interesting.
I'll admit, I would like to see a movie exploring Cybok's backstory.
That said, if you're gonna watch the Star Trek movies, I highly recommend you set a free date for yourself and watch 2, 3, and 4 back to back to back. It's such a good experience.
Oh yeah, it's actually very. They just flow together so well.
And they don't change on a dime like that. It's
a pretty smooth transition.
Yeah, because at the beginning
you're not going to get any whiplash over it. This is a pretty consistent plot.
Yeah, because the thing is, Khan has funny moments, but it's always serious. Star Trek 3 starts off serious and ends just in
ridiculous.
Just ends in a comedy.
And then Star Trek 4, despite its the grim implications of its plot, it's just pure comedy.
Yep.
One thing I do want to mention is partway through this review, Tanner took out a tub of a small tub of ice cream, and he only just now opened it.
It's okay. I forgot I just got off work, folks.
He got off work over an hour and 3/4 ago. Yeah. But he had just gotten off work before recording this, so.
And you know what? You can't blame me for wanting ice cream, because you know what? I've had a fucking long day. To put it succinctly, I usually have 2 helpers. I only had 1, and by sheer force of fucking will, I managed to get out on time. By sheer force of will.
And that's how we got this recording.
That's how we got this recording. Because if we had gotten out any later,
I'm actually legitimately trying to remember how long the Wrath of Khan podcast.
The Wrath of Khan review was about 2 hours.
I want to agree. It might have been an hour and a half, but this, if not being the longest, is definitely the second longest.
Here's the problem. We spent over 10 minutes laughing at
Can you blame me?
Oh,
dick joke.
All I said was to set him off was, okay, you imagine there's a coffee table.
And then my mind just went there immediately. It's like, I know exactly where he's going with this.
And you hit your shin, and it feels like death. So what if you hit your knee, and that's where your genitals are? No, seriously, hitting your shin against the fucking...
Oh, that hurts.
Fuck, that happened to me last week, and I was like, fuck this. Also, no, it's not, hitting your shin against a coffee table is not as bad as stubbing your toe against a coffee table. That's even worse. I was limping all day last week.
Oh, on the topic of accidentally injuring yourself, yesterday I was doing the dishes, and I had just recently cleaned a knife and had it in the drying rack, and I had positioned it in probably not the ideal position, so when I was putting some stuff away, my finger ended up grazing against the blade, and I'm glad that I had been keeping to put my hand in some soapy water to keep it from bleeding out. It's not a bad wound, but it is
Dude.
It is
You see that there?
Yeah.
Okay,
Ouch.
so
that looks painful.
Okay, so
this is just evolved into us explaining grievous injuries.
So this will be the last story before we sign off, because we're just fucking around. This is basically the post review.
If you don't want to hear any more of this, you can click off of this at this point.
Oh no! After this, we'll discuss what movies are next. But this is the last sort of story. So funny story. So industrial kitchens have an industrial dishwasher.
Yeah.
And it's sort of like you pull trays out from it.
Yeah.
And it has a lip.
Yep.
Oh, a lip. Okay. So we have a cart. So we have a cart that has a tall handle. Okay, for drinks.
Yeah.
So I was putting dishes away, and I caught my finger between the handle and the lip.
Ah!
And so I was like, oh, my finger's stuck. And as hard as I could, I yanked it out. Ah! And it just a big chunk of flesh was stuck off, and I was like, oh, that sucks.
Ah! Oh.
Yeah, no. So it's been like that for like 2 weeks now.
Oh, ow.
I mean, it doesn't hurt anymore because all the skin's grown back. But it's all fresh as a baby's bottom now. What movies are we doing next?
Well, the next
now that we've discussed it, our audience.
The next movie that we'll be discussing will be the fourth and, for its time, final entry in the Mobile Suit Gundam The Origin series. Though it was quickly followed up by
Which reminds me of
when we finished, we forgot to mention this last time, but when we finished watching the third movie, my recycled balls here thought that we were done with the movies. And then I was like, no, there's still 3 more.
Oh. But I was also going to mention before this review that I was talking about. So there was a video on YouTube I saw that was Char Osnable from the original series, basically saying, "I've never betrayed anybody in my entire life."
Karma, Lino, Cassilia. Oh, what's the other one? I forgot. Char Aznable.
Char Aznable. Fucking liar. And after that,
then we got some gunslinging action. I still want to keep it a bit of a surprise.
Okay.
But I'll
make sure there's no name.
All right, go for it.
Okay.
But stay tuned for March when we actually have a couple nice one-shots where we'll be talking about, well, just think about what happens, what day it is, the second Friday of that month. Hint, hint. And since over on Game Zilong, me and Tank like to do Mecha March, we're going to be reviewing a mecha movie that isn't Gundam.
What happens on the second Friday of March? What?
Oh, you'll have to wait and find out.
Oh, no.
But so yeah, I'll expect a mecha movie. Tank already knows what that is, but don't ask him because I want him to keep that a secret.
Eventually down the line, this won't be much of a surprise. Eventually down the line, we're gonna do some investigative
journal. We're gonna do some investigating into some other movies.
It's gonna be a hell of a problem. Ooby-doo.
Ruh-roh.
Ruh-roh, indeed. That's
right, we're doing Deadpool now.
This is my recycled balls.
We should do Deadpool at some point, though.
This is my recycled balls.
I'm ProtoMet.
Have a good one.
See ya.
See ya.